everybody, and welcome to Trophy Horrors. This is episode 567. I'm your host, Hickey Mick. Alongside with me, the man, the myth, and the legend, it's Alex.
Our long-awaited guest has arrived to talk about one of the coolest games of the year.
He brings the awesome. It's I Yield to No One.
Our True Trophies team is kicking butt.
And Alex brought up the guest. He is the reason why you guys are all tuning in this week. Let's be real. Normally you tune in to hear what we have to say, but we're nothing right now. Patrick Hickey Jr., how are you, sir? And welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Doing great, guys. Thank you for having me here. A fan of your show. Looking forward to having some fun.
Yeah. I don't know how much fun you could have being an Islander fan, but we'll let that go for now.
Do you want me to quiz you on the Rangers and show the world that I know more about the Rangers than you do?
No.
Would you like that to happen?
That's fine. I mean, you could know.
How many goals did Mike Gartner score in 1992?
I don't know. I was 12.
Do you even know who Mike Gartner is?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you tell me the starting Can you tell me the starting five of the 94 Stanley Cup champions?
5?
Tell me the starting 5.
What do you mean the starting 5? It's hockey. You mean the first line?
Yes.
And that changes too. I can give you 10 players on the team if you want the starting 5.
Starting 5. Give me the starting 5.
It's not the NBA.
You're stalling right now because you don't know the answer.
Oh my God, you're a hockey fan and you said the starting
You know
5?
what? I'll give you one.
Oh my God. Who drove the Zamboni on the 67 Dallas Mavericks of the Canadian Football League? How about that? That's a fair question.
You don't
Come
know.
on, the starting 5. Let's see. We could talk Steve Larmer. We can talk Stefan Matteau. We could talk Jeff Bukaboom, Kovalev, obviously Messier. Who else? Richter, Healy. Oh no, Healy wasn't on that team. Healy was on the. Healy was on that team.
Yes, Healy was on the team.
Healy was, and Healy also played for the Islanders the year before, and they beat the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins. They beat them in 7 games, 6 of those games without their leading scorer Pierre Turgeon, who scored 58 goals and 132 points that season. So, yeah, it's okay.
You also forgot
I know more about your team than you do. It's okay.
But you left out the greatest defenseman ever.
Brian Leach is not the greatest defenseman of all time.
Yes, he is.
Stop it. You know why he missed like 44 games of the season before, right? Because he was blasted out of his mind. He was drunk and fell out of a cab.
That is true. I can't deny that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, great defenseman. I would have taken him in a heartbeat. And then, listen, this is the thing, too. You guys made all of those trades. You guys traded Tony Amonte for Steve Larmer just to win a cup. I would have rather had Tony Amonte for another 10 years, but whatever. It's all good. You guys did have a great team that you paid for that year. Did you guys even make the playoffs the next year?
No.
No, you didn't. Wow.
The New York teams are used to paying a lot of money and not getting a lot of results.
Oh, man. And what's the only North American professional hockey team to win 4 Stanley Cups in a row and make the finals the next season?
You mean cheat for the 2?
Oh my God!
They cheated
and
for
they had 19 players play on all 5 teams. That'll never happen again.
Yeah, because they cheated for the first 2 of the cups.
How?
That's always his answer. Is they cheated.
No. If you go back, there was controversial calls and goals all through that.
If you go back, hey, stop. Oh my God.
Tricky. I don't know why you want to go one-on-one with Patrick on sports, because it seems like he knows way more than you.
No,
we could do it.
I don't doubt that Patrick knows more about sports, but I mean, your knowledge immediately drops in half the second you say you're an Islanders fan. Next, you can tell me you're a Mets fan.
Why? Why does that have anything to do with what
Next, you're gonna tell me you're a Mets fan.
Absolutely, and a Jets fan, and a Nets fan. I have been born into liking teams that are painful to watch.
Yes,
it's okay. It's my curse. But see, this is the thing. The second that I became a journalist 17 years ago, I stopped saying things like my team and stuff. I still love those teams. but I can look at other teams objectively. So like when I look at the Rangers this year, I say, you know what, they've got a really fun team to watch, but they haven't been bit by the injury bug. They've picked up players on at the trading deadline that haven't done nearly as much as they've expected.
I do wish Kane would have done more.
And they're gonna get whipped, if not by the Devils, who are extremely underrated. If they have to go and play against either the Leafs or the Bruins, they're done. They're going home. They're going to be playing golf in
Did you really just bring up the Leafs to me? The Leafs the Leafs who cannot handle the playoffs at all?
They couldn't. That doesn't... listen, the Islanders in 78, 79, people like, they can't do it. They can't do it. They can't do it. And then 80 comes along. And then you've got a completely different monster. The Leafs are built a little bit different this year. And see, that's the thing. It's so easy to be like, oh, the Leafs, because they've got this narrative attached to them that they choke in the playoffs. But eventually, they could win a round or two, and this could possibly be the year. I'm telling you.
Well, the Leafs are playing the Lightning in the first round, which is going to be a tough matchup.
And if they beat the Lightning, they're going to have a ton of momentum. I'm telling you.
Well, listen, if they beat the Lightning... presumably,
I wouldn't want to play them if I was an NHL team. If I would not want to play them after they beat the Lightning.
Listen, if they beat the Lightning, then the next round presumably they're going to be playing the Bruins, which is not going to be not going to be easy matchup as it is.
Well, see, then the thing is too, the Bruins. I'm not sure if you remember the last time the Islanders played the Bruins in the playoffs, and they had a very similar roster to what they have now. They were completely deflated. So this is the thing too. They have had this historic season, but once the playoffs start, how many wins do they have?
All right, let's go to our updated trophy count. I am level 854, total trophies of 26,648 with 727 platinums. Alex?
All I gotta say is Patrick 1, Tricky 0. That's all I'm gonna say.
I like this guy. This guy is. I like you, Alex. You're good. You're good.
We're gonna mix well together, sir.
I love it.
am level 475. With total trophy count of 8,631. Now more of an Islanders fan than ever. And a platinum count of 142 in 141 games.
You don't even care about hockey, Alex, so don't start.
You know what? I used to. Back in the 90s, Patrick, I live in Louisville, and we don't have a hockey team around here. Well, we had the River Frogs for a while, but
oh wow,
not an NHL team, obviously. But,
yeah. No, that's great though.
But I used to love the Avalanche. I used to love the Sabres. I love the Sabres though, mostly. I mean, I did like some of their players, but mostly because of that sweet jersey with the buffalo head, the white one. That was awesome.
I do miss Hasek. Hasek was a hell of a goalie.
Hasek was amazing. Oh,
I did used to when he was on the. I did used to watch some hockey, so. I wasn't always. It's not just hockey; it's most sports. I don't care about most sports these days. But yeah, Tricky.
Yield your trophy count.
Well, my hockey team sucks. So
yeah,
who's your hockey team?
Well,
I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I'm in Ohio, so I got the Blue Jackets, and we suck. So
they were literally the worst team in the AHL this year.
A lot of injuries though too. So.
But anyway, so my trophy count, I'm a level 494 with a trophy count of 9422 and a platinum count of 169.
69. Sid is level 831, total trophies of 22,960 with 716 platinums. And Patrick, what are you looking at, sir?
I don't even keep track of my...
It's on the agenda.
Yeah. It's on the agenda? Okay. So... I'm just going to say for the record, I own over 4,000 video games. The last 5 years, I have not played nearly as many games as I used to. So I'm level 187. TC is 686 and my platinum is 1. And the reason why is because I have spent the last 5 years of my life interviewing as many video game developers as possible to get to the bottom of your favorite video games. I've written 7 books on the history of video games called The Minds Behind the Games. They're in over 2,000 libraries worldwide, including Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and UCLA Berkeley. That's my excuse.
He's way too smart to be on this show.
That's just a humble brag.
I think when you've done that much, you can definitely
brag about it. Yeah.
Oh,
I've played NHL 23 for probably 50 hours this year. but that's like it. Like I have no between that. I own a comic book company. I'm a full-time college professor. I have an Italian wife and 2 kids. Like I barely have any time to play PS5. I wish I could, you know. So
all right, pop quiz. Do you know your only plat? Do you know what it is?
Oh my god. Oof. No.
I looked it up, and
what is it?
It's not a highly respected game within the community.
Okay.
It's
what is it?
The Game of Thrones Telltale series.
Oh, because I used to get all of those for free because I used to review them.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is too, I'm going to be brutally honest, is a lot of the games that I played to review, I played them when trophies weren't available for them. So many of, like, if you guys go online and look up any of my reviews, you'll see that like I don't have trophies for those games because when I was playing them, trophies weren't available for them.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for PS3, PS4, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into what we're playing. Alex, I'm going to start with you.
I have been playing Resident Evil 4 again going through on my second playthrough on the assisted difficulty. Did my first run on standard, now I'm doing assisted. I'm doing my handgun and knife only run, also using no healing items. And then my third run is going to be the New Game Plus on professional with the infinite rocket launcher because I'm close to being able to buy that. But yeah, I still feel the same about the game that I always have. I feel like a little bit of a identity crisis between action game and horror game, but still a good game. Difficulty spikes are very annoying, but overall I like the setting. The transition from the village to the castle is really cool. The enemies are really cool. Weapons are a lot of fun to play with. The bosses are pretty memorable. So, I mean, overall, it's a really good game, and I like the dynamic of Ashley and Leon. You know, she was not nearly as annoying as I thought she would be. From what I had heard about the original game, I think she's a pretty good character in this. You know, as far as like taking care of herself, she's fine. Like, I mean, yeah, she's gonna get caught up, but at some points, but it's on you to obviously. I mean, she's not completely useless. That's what I'm saying. So, and the dynamic between her and Leon and how they develop is nice. So, I mean, overall, it's a really good game. But again, the difficulty spikes just kind of like when you're going for the trophies, they kind of nag at you. So that's really my only complaint about the game. But it's been a lot of fun. Let's see, there was one specific thing that I feel like I was going to say that I completely forgot. Yeah. Yes, now I remember. I do appreciate the attention to detail the developers put in this game because, like, for instance, the first major boss in the game is a lake monster. And if you go down, then there are guys that go in for the village and feed the monster. If you go down and shoot one of those guys or shoot into the lake before you fight the boss will jump out and eat you and kill you. There's also a segment in the castle where there is an upper part of a chamber, and then there's like an audience chamber, and there's an upper part and then a lower part. Well, you have to work through the lower part and through the dungeons to get to the upper part, and there's a ladder on the top that you kick down to give you easy access from one to the other. Well, I jumped down from the upper to the lower without putting down that ladder. Well, good news is the developers saw that because Ashley, my sidekick, was upstairs still, and she's like, "Hey, Leon," and then she kicked down the ladder for me, and I was able to go back and forth really easily. So the developers thought of a lot. If you go to YouTube and watch a lot of videos, all the little small details they do, there's a lot in there. So it's a really stout remake. I still think I prefer Dead Space. That's just me, though. But yeah, a lot of work and detail went into the remake that you got to respect. So I definitely appreciate it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. I'm probably looking towards the future to play Untitled Goose Game to get me back on my platinum track. Because, as I said before, I'm probably not going to platinum this game. One, because not only do you have to play on the hard difficulties, but also you have to beat them in under like 5.5 and 5 hours. And just to not only be on a difficult run, but also do it under time is just a little bit too stressful for me. That's not what I want in my game. So I think I'm going to sit this one out and just kind of get all the trophies I can in my 3 runs and then move on. But yeah. Now, Patrick, it seems like you're a fan of Resident Evil based on your response there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love the series. I think 4 is probably my favorite. I will say, I think it was the last time I was at New York, not the last time, but one of the last times I was at New York Comic Con, I got to play the Village, the VR one, and man, that was like when PSVR was just starting to like take off, and I remember when I was done, I was like soaked in sweat. That game was so crazy to play in VR. So yeah, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I love the old, I love Resident Evil 1 and 2 though. Those are the ones that like stuck with me the most.
All right. Yield, what have you been playing, sir?
Oh, I've been playing a lot since I haven't been here in a couple of weeks. Super Tennis Blast, Super Volley Blast. I jumped back into Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris because I was missing one trophy, so I knocked that out in a couple of days. Platinum number 1 was Concrete Genie, which was way more fun than what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into that game.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I actually give them credit for actually using the motion controls on the controller. Although I didn't use it because the way I sit and play video games, it was far more easier for me to use the thumbstick to paint. But I give developers credit when they actually use the tools that Sony has built into the controller. My second platinum was We Were Here Forever, which, Matt G, if you're listening, pick it up. Well worth it. Play it with your wife or a buddy. It's absolutely fun. And we hear they're making a 5th, so get hyped. Also played some Deep Rock Galactic. Fired up Ghost of a Tale. Did some Rocket League this past Thursday. Some Diablo 3. Some Assassin's Creed 4 multiplayer boost. Did some of my Bureau projects in World of Warship Legends. And then platinum number 3 was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series.
Yeah, I saw that. You got that last night, didn't you?
Today, actually.
Oh, today. Sorry.
Yep. My niece was over. She wanted to play it. So her and I played through it together. We were taking turns kind of making decisions and
nice
playing the game that way. So that was pretty fun. Actually, I have to say, that ranks up there with Tales from the Borderlands and
love Tales from the Borderlands. So much fun.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank.
Batman?
No, not Batman.
Wolf Among Us?
Wolf Among Us, yes.
Oh.
Those 3 are like
so good.
They're almost like 1A, 1B, and 1C. I mean, those 3 are just like I got done with Guardians, and I'm like, well, the soundtrack is amazing because it's Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
I love the trophies and the episode names because they were all like song titles. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. My niece is like, what? I'm like, these are all song titles. She's like, oh, I recognize that one. But anyway, and it was really good. The humor was good. The story was good. And it was like Telltale at their best. And that's it. That's all I've been playing these last couple of weeks.
You would really enjoy the Square Enix Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a lot of fun and a very easy platinum as well.
I have that. That'll probably, hopefully, I hope to get to it maybe by the end of the year. But I got that for Christmas this past year, so it's on the agenda.
No. I'm surprised you don't like Batman. I thought Batman was one of the better ones, too.
I liked it. I really liked how they took the direction of Batman and how they kind of like reworked it from what like you were traditionally used to, whether you were comics or whether you were animated series. I like how they weaved it together. I just enjoyed Tales from the Borderlands, Wolf Among Us, and Guardians of the Galaxy more. I don't know why. I really like Batman, and I like all the villains in it, but I just enjoyed those series more than I did Batman.
All right, you don't have to explain yourself. All right, Patrick, I know you said you haven't really been playing anything. Have you played any video games lately?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. It's just I don't get to play my PlayStation nearly as much. Renfield, Bring Your Own Blood, was just on early access 2 days ago. I've been playing that a lot. That's the newest from Skybound Games and Megacat Studios. It's like a bullet hell roguelite. It's a lot of fun. I've been playing. I have an RG 351, so I've been playing a lot of WWF No Mercy. I've made a bunch of AEW and WWE characters that aren't in there, and I just play the living hell out of it. I've created like 30 characters, all with their unique movesets and stuff. I play that like pretty much like every day. If I could have like a match a day in that game. When I went to PAX East, whenever I'm on a plane, I always try and throw a no-hitter in a random NES baseball game. So when I was on my way to PAX East, I threw a no-hitter in Bad News Baseball on the NES. So Renfield, Bad News Baseball, WWE No Mercy. I'm trying to figure out what else I've been playing. A lot of the Tony Hawk remake with my daughter because she loves that. And we actually just did get Guardians of the Galaxy on PS5. I haven't gotten any trophies yet because I was just watching her play. But yeah, that game has a bitchin' soundtrack.
It does.
So as soon as you start playing, you're just like, yeah, I'm totally in. So that's basically what I've been playing. lately. That and then just preparing for WrestleQuest. I mean, it's like less than a month away or so. So I'm super hyped for that. I'm doing VO on like 4 other games. So I spend a lot of time working on games than I do actually playing. So sorry.
Well, I mean, I know these guys are they really want to pick your brain about WrestleQuest, but let's get through the rest of the show real quick. The only thing the only thing I've been playing is the Division 2, going back to Gotham Knights, trying to get those DLC trophies, but I have to go through. It sucks because you have to go through the entire game again to get some of them. So I did the New Game Plus, got up to level 40, got the platinum, and I stopped playing.
Nice.
Now I have to go through basically the story again to unlock the 3 major villains, or 3 side villains, I should say, to unlock their harder battle. So I have to do that. Also, if you hear behind me, I got a new puppy, Harley, so she may start squealing or whatnot. She's
Nice.
She's part German Shepherd, part Pit Bull, part Husky, part Lab, but she's got the voice of a Husky. So
she's Irish.
she's very vocal. So if you hear that,
and she loves PlayStation 5 power cords.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That was hilarious. Saturday.
Last night. I was boosting with the guys on Assassin's Creed 4, and I go out and smoke a cigarette, and I'm sitting in my doorway smoking a cigarette, and I get a text message or a message going, "Hey, what happened?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You just disconnected." I'm like, "I'm outside smoking. I don't know what you guys are talking about." I walk back in. I was like, "Oh, my console just turned off. All right, good." So I go try to turn my console back on. It won't turn on. I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" Like, I hope my system didn't just break. I look over, and Harley is sitting in the cage chewing on the power cord.
And that's the second the dog went back to North Shore Animal League.
No, I love this girl. She's currently standing on the cage at the top, just hanging, just looking at me like, "Are you gonna come pet me?" She's gonna start howling soon. All right, so let's get into our topics. The first one we have is the PlayStation Plus games catalog for April has been revealed. We have some good games in this one. If you have Plus or Premium, you're going to be getting Bassmaster Fishing for the PS3 and PS4, PS5, Doom Eternal for the 4 and the 5, Kenya, Bridge of Spirits for the 4 and the 5, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom for the 4 and 5, Paradise Killer for the 4 and 5, Riders Republic for the 4 and 5, Sackboy for the 4 and 5, Slay the Spire for the 4, The Evil Within for the 4, Wolfenstein the New Colossus for the 4, and Wolfenstein the Old Blood for the 4. And for the Classics catalog, you're going to get Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, and Dishonored Definitive Edition all for the 4. Not a bad lineup.
Not a very good lineup.
Do you mispronounce Kina just to piss me off, Tricky, at this
Yeah,
point?
because it's Ken. I'm gonna say it wrong.
I
Alex will do it right. I was gonna say Kenya.
I say Kenya.
Kina. That's what it is. Yeah, there you go.
Patrick, you want to sell this debate? How do you pronounce it?
Kina.
Okay, you know what? We're moving on.
See, I told you, me and Patrick are going to be good, and you're sitting here, you're just trying to pick fights with him. I don't know why you. First of all, you're wrong, but also why you think you're going to pull him to your side.
I did. I
was.
was. Hold on a second. To be
Did you hear
clear,
what he whispered a couple of seconds ago too? I heard it. It came up on my feed. He whispered, "Let's go Islanders." I heard it. I heard it clear as a whistle.
You know, he oftentimes types that into the chat. He doesn't want to say it so the people in the audio can't hear it. But even if they can't hear it when they're listening back to the show, be rest assured he's typing it. We just take that out of the sound. Take that out of the background.
I believe it.
moving on to our next story, coming from IGN, written by Matt Purslow. Dreams live support will end later this year. Media Molecule has announced that it's ending live support for Dreams. From this September, no more updates will be provided for the game, and many community events will be concluded. In a post to the Dreams website, Media Molecule explained that live support will end on September 1st, along with the end of any updates. The studio is also bringing events such as Dreamscom, All Hallows Dreams, and the Impy Awards to a close. Quote, "We're very proud of Dreams and are grateful for the way you, the community, have embraced all it has to offer." An ad just popped up and just messed up my thing. Whilst we always had the desire to build on the foundation of Dreams and expand the experience, When reviewing our plans, we were not able to define a sustainable path. We made the decision to change the studio project strategy. This is obviously disappointing to the many people inside and outside of Media Molecule. However, we are incredibly excited for what will come next. Now, I'm going to go to Yield first. Yield, Dreams is a game that we knew came, kind of like silently launched out there, and I kind of forgot it was out there. Do you find it weird that Media Molecule is pulling the plug on it this quick?
Well, I was going to ask, when did it launch?
Oh, let me look that up.
Because I remember them talking about it, and we were all kind of like, it seemed like a different morph of Little Big Planet.
It came out on February 14th, 2020.
Ah, so 3 years. So,
But
yeah, it is.
Plenty of time.
But hold on. I don't. Hold on.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify. I don't know because the game did release in beta. So I don't know if that was the beta release date or the official release date.
But either way, 3 years. I mean, you can say, yeah, that's a good time for a game, but that with as long as they've supported Little Big Planet, it
Which is
seems
still
like
ongoing.
a shock. But at least I think that we all kind of thought that Dreams was kind of a different change of pace for them, and was kind of worried how it would go. So I'm like surprised, but not surprised. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it does. You know what? That was the official release date because I just looked on the Wikipedia page. It said the beta ran from December 19th of 18 until February 4th of 19, and the game was made available early access on the 16th of April of 19, and then officially released on February 14th of 2020.
There we go.
So 3 years full release, but it's been out there within beta form for a while. So, Alex, your thoughts on Dreams?
Well, given how much time they spent on that game and how community-driven the Media Molecule games tend to be, I'm a little surprised it's shutting down or they're scaling back support so quickly. Because to me, 3 years is very... I don't know, it seems like a short amount of time. You think about Ubisoft and how long they have supported Assassin's Creed multiplayer games. You know, going back to like Brotherhood, you see EA supporting Mercenaries 2, World in Flames, and Shank 2 for the longest time for, 10 or more years. And it's like, to me, this seems like this game wasn't as big or did not have as big of an audience, a player base as they would like to have. I mean, if this game had the players there, you figure it would go on for longer. So just because it seems like we've, in recent years, heard of companies supporting, other games for much longer, that this just seems like a short amount of time to me. But, the life cycle of every game is different. So who knows, maybe this was just always planned to be this way. But to me, it's kind of like, I feel like if the game had more support from the player base, that it would still be around past this.
Now, Patrick, with your, we'll go into your history with, writing all your books and how much history you do and how much research you do with them. But what are your thoughts on Dreams? Like, is this something that you expected to be shut down so quickly, or?
Well, I just want to say for the record that how dare Media Molecule tell us that we're not allowed to dream anymore. Like, I don't want to live in a world where I can't dream anymore. And now I can't because Media Molecule has taken that away from me. So
well, you're good till September 1st.
Yes, until September 1st. After that, I'm not going to be able... Oh, okay. So anyway, guys, if you read this press release, they're basically saying that the player support just wasn't there. So I'm happy that, you guys have mentioned EA and Ubisoft, but these are... Ubisoft and EA are a completely different monster than Media Molecule. To keep a game online costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, like a month, and to keep it constantly chock full of content and stuff like that. And if the player base isn't there, then they're just going to lose money. It's not... There's a reason why Assassin's Creed was supported for so long. There's a reason why, Electronic Arts is able to throw in so many microtransactions and people will play Ultimate League online for so long and so long. Like, I mean, what are we looking at as far as Dreams goes, as far as like DLC and any other type of content like post-release that would keep people, and this is the thing, new people playing. I mean, I just don't think, it was there. So 3 years may not seem like that long of amount of time, but it's plenty of time to find out if it's worthwhile for another 2 or 3 years. And they probably looked at their numbers and said, this isn't making the type of money that we needed to, or maybe it was just hemorrhaging money, and they were like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. So it's right there in the press release. They just don't flat out say it. And there's so many times when you read press releases from video game companies, from music companies, from film executives and stuff, and they're telling you exactly how they feel, but they won't directly say it. It's like when your boss is about to tell you that you're fired, but it's just littering you with compliments. Like, we're so proud of the support that you've given the company over the last 15 years, and we couldn't do it without you. But... And then you just wait, and they're not really saying it here, but they're saying it's obviously disappointing to many people inside and outside of Media Molecule, da-da-da. However, we're excited for what's next. So they're telling you, yeah, we're happy that this stayed alive for 3 years, but we're ready to move on. And they're not telling you why they're ready to move on, but they've made it clear that they're ready to move on. So that's all I need to know why this is not going to exist online past September.
And I may be misremembering this, but didn't Dreams kind of get in a little bit of trouble because people were making copyrighted material in their games? Like, I seem to remember a story of somebody made the first Metal Gear Solid with inside Dreams.
Well, I'm sure there was plenty of Mario content in there.
Well, sure. But
which obviously Nintendo would slap down as soon as they could. Which, by the way, if you all haven't seen it, Super Mario Brothers movie is very good. We went to see it last night.
Nice.
I heard it was good.
Yep, it is. It's only an hour and a half, so it's not going to take a lot of your... There's a lot of references in there, but it's an hour and a half, so it's not going to take up a ton of your time.
And I'm hearing that Jack Black as Bowser is up for an award for Peaches.
Yeah, the song he did. I mean, on YouTube, you can go watch him singing his song "Peaches" that he was a part of writing. I mean, all the cast do a really good job. I will say that it's weird because you see the characters. I know a lot of people were up in arms when Chris Pratt was the voice of Mario, and I will say that Charles Martinet, the actual voice of Mario, plays a couple characters, but the big one I think is Mario's father in the movie. So Charles Martinet is in there, but. But yeah, I mean,
how do you not have him do Mario then?
Honestly, like I watched the movie. I could tell Luigi was Charlie Day, but like Chris Pratt being Mario didn't bother me at all. He did a good job. It's fine.
I don't know. That first trailer, that first trailer set me off.
All the voice work is really good, and a lot of the times you can't even tell. Like if you didn't know, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, Bowser's Jack Black." Like sometimes it comes out, but it doesn't always come out. So, yeah, no, I mean Chris Pratt does a good job. Mario was good.
Patrick, you were just shaking your head.
Have you guys seen that Jack Black has said that he wants a Red Dead Redemption to be kind of like the next kind of like video game type movie, so to speak, or like animated movie or something? I'm like, I could go.
So down for that. Oh, so down for that. Oh,
Jack Black is already trying to get his way into that movie to be part of the cast, which honestly, like, you know, Jack Black's a big star, and with his recent work on History of the World Part 2 and Super Mario Brothers movie, I mean, I'm sure they'd be happy to add him to the cast. Like, you know, hey, Jack Black was he was in a video game. He was the voice of the main character in Brutal Legend. So.
Brutal Legend.
Yep. One of my good buddies, Benjamin Johnson, he wrote the forward to I think it's the Minds Behind the Shooter games. He might have wrote the forward or the afterward. But he was a lead level designer on Red Dead Redemption, and he posted a picture of Jack Black the other day, and he was just like, "Yeah, boy, like, yeah, I'm down with that." So I would love to see a Red Dead. So the reason why I was shaking my hands before, Tricky Mick, is because the voice actor for Mario, aside from "ho ho, it's a me," I mean, does he have extensive voice acting? Does he have an extensive voice acting resume that we know of?
I would say no.
So why would you want him to star in a feature film? Like, unless the whole film was Mario going, ho ho, ha ha. Like, Chris Pratt's a rock star. Give it to Chris Pratt. You know, the fact that they put Marionette in there and they let him do his thing for a couple of characters, that was great. They didn't even have to do that. There's a big difference between micro voice acting and macro voice acting. So I'm totally fine with Chris Pratt, you know?
Okay.
And
I'm just getting schooled this entire episode.
Shigeru Miyamoto was, I think he was an executive producer on the project, so they had someone from Nintendo there with this. So if there really was a problem, he's the one to call it out. But even he was fine with it. So I mean, who are we to question it?
All right, well, let's get.
It's not like the Sonic thing, you know. So like with the whole outcry over the Sonic design, it just completely different, completely.
Yeah, they were like, we fucked up and we know it, so let's change this.
Well,
Yep.
Speaking of fucking up, let's get on to our next story here. Rocksteady has officially delayed Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League again, this time from February 2nd of this year, or excuse me, from May 26th of this year, which is a little over a month away, to February 2nd of next year. The developer announced the news on Twitter, writing a statement, quote, "We have made the tough but necessary decision to take the time needed to work on getting the game to be the best quality experience for players. Thank you to our amazing community for the continued support, patience, and understanding. There is much more to share in the months ahead, and we look forward to seeing you in Metropolis next year." At this point, come on, just tell us what the fuck's going on.
They're not, though. They're not. And you know what? They're probably better off taking another 10 months because a delay like that just means that there's a whole bunch of things going wrong. And I at least respect Rocksteady because there's so many other developers that would go, you know what, we'll just fix it post-release. There's so many developers that do that now. So the fact that they're waiting and they're trying to give us something polished, listen, it's annoying. I'm in the same spot with the AEW game. I pre-ordered it like 10 months ago. And it might not even come out this year at this point. So would you rather buy something that's crap or would you rather wait for something good? I mean, they're kind of like damned if they do and damned if they don't at this point. But you've got to at least, you can't be happy about it, but you could at least respect the fact that they don't want to ship a complete turd.
Listen, I respect the hell out of Rocksteady. I think they made 4 stellar games, 3 stellar games. Because the other one wasn't, that was WB Montreal. I got a ton of respect for Rocksteady. I think they make quality games. But after that state of play, there was a huge outcry. People didn't want this. People didn't, they weren't happy with what they saw. And then for at least a month, we've been hearing how this game was going to be delayed. There was no official word. And then you wait a month before release to say, oh, yeah, we are delaying it. When the rumor is even before the state of play, you knew you were going to delay the game. Come on. Listen, I get the fact that they got to fix the game, and like you just said, I respect the fact that if they're waiting 10 months they're delaying this 10 months, there's something wrong with the game. They got to fix it. There's a whole lot of problems. I get that, and I respect that, and we've said this on the show many times. Delay your game if it's not ready. Don't release a broken project. Alex,
absolutely.
Alex, I'm not gonna, I don't want to speak for you, but you've said numerous times you would never buy another CG Project Red game because of what happened with Cyberpunk.
I mean, they definitely have to earn back my trust because they completely broke my trust. I never bought a CG Project Red game, but if they think that I'm going to trust one of their releases after what they did with Cyberpunk, no. Especially since I don't own a PC. If I owned a PC, I would probably be less apprehensive. But since I own a PlayStation 5, and obviously am not really... there was all that, tomfoolery with the last gen versions of the game. Like, no, you're going to release a couple games before I'm going to invest in anything you put out. So, yeah.
All right. Yil, do you want to speak on this?
So, I mean, I'm not upset that they're delaying it. I think now with the second delay, I think that it wouldn't. Actually, I don't know if it would help or make it worse, but that I was on the fence from the get-go for the game, and then I saw the state of play, and I was just like, "Here ain't no way in heck I'm buying this game." But so it got delayed right there, and now we're delaying it again, and we're delaying it for 10 months. I almost would like to know now why you're delaying it for 10 months. What are you fixing? What are you adding? 10 months is more than the first one. Polish. All right. I get that. But now you're going 10 months. Like everybody else is saying, there's something wrong with the game. You're either doing, I won't say a monumental shift because I'd almost think you'd have to be longer than 10 months possibly, but you're doing some kind of a shift in the game. Maybe tell us where you're going because that makes me even more apprehensive now than before.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, I really want to play this game.
Well, yeah, you're the one who's the most excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the fact that it's a games for service game, Is that how they're? Yeah, it's a live in-service game with a battle pass.
Which doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing.
No, doesn't mean a bad thing. I mean, I play one almost daily, and that's The Division. Like, that doesn't bother me. Would I've liked a linear story similar to what we got in Batman? Probably a little bit more. But I'm fine with this. If it's ongoing and it gives me the same kind of content, same kind of feel of playing the game, then I'm good. I mean, I've been playing Gotham.
Let's not even draw comparisons to Batman. How about Guardians of the Galaxy, but with a villain team?
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, I just really want to play this game. It's upsetting that it's not, it's getting delayed like it is. All right, so at this point, we are gonna throw. I keep forgetting what button it is. We have some listener questions. I have to find them because I'm not organized over here. But let's hit the soundbite.
Time to check my social media, yeah.
All right, so Patrick, we have to ask our guest for the first time on the show. What are your thoughts on that soundbite? Good. Don't ever do it again. Because we get a lot of feedback from both ways.
It was fine. It did what it was supposed to do. It was an effective transition to a new segment.
Thank you. I appreciate you, sir.
You're welcome. The Rangers still suck, but it was still an effective
I was about to make
transition.
I was about to make an Islanders joke, so you kind of beat me to it. I said, even though you're an Islanders fan, I still appreciate it. Where's the post go? There was, sometimes I really hate social media, especially Facebook. I'm sorry, everybody. All right, here we go. So we only have one thing, and it's kind of more of a comment than a question. David Bray says, I was listening to the Loop Brothers podcast where you were on, Tricky, and I agree with the PlayStation VR 2 needs to have support for Netflix, concerts, and sporting events. It would be awesome to see the Washington Commanders beating the crap out of the Cowboys in VR. I have to agree with the last thing. Otherwise, anybody beating the Cowboys in VR or anybody beating the Cowboys in general is just a good time for me. And just to give you guys context, we were talking about the VR and, whether or not it was going to be successful. We're going to go to that in our topic of the week as well here. But one of the things I said on that show was to make the VR more enticing, and not just the VR 2, like the Oculus Quest or, whatever, the VR headsets. One of the draws of those is being able to watch like a concert from the front row or be able to watch WrestleMania from the front row. That kind of stuff is what I got more excited about with the VR rather than the games or, as Yul says, the glorified tech demos that we got.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
No, absolutely not. No way.
I mean, like I said, at the top of my head, Moss is really the only VR game I wanted to play because it didn't look like a tech demo.
Well, I'm sure Call of the Mountain will be good because it's a Horizon game, but
that's a VR 2 though. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, see, I hot take without even playing it. I think Call of the Mountain is a glorified tech demo. I think they put it out there to showcase what the VR 2 can do. Kind of like how, what was the game we got with the PlayStation 5 preloaded?
Astro's Playroom?
Yeah, Astro's Playroom. That was just that was a game, and we could call it a game.
It was a game/tech demo to show you what the console and the controller could do.
Right, and that's what I think Call of the Mountain's going to do. I don't have any basis of that. I haven't played it. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. But that was my impression of what Call of the Mountain was going to be.
Well, that would be a smart hypothesis because that was announced with the launch of the VR 2. And how do you draw interest for it? Well, you draw interest up for it off the hottest game that you just released, which was Forbidden West. So it makes sense to draw that conclusion.
Right. All right. Patrick, I don't know if you have any history with the VRs. What are your thoughts on them? If you want to touch base before we actually go into our next article.
I just feel like it's such wasted potential because it's. I wanted to get it when it was on PS4, and I did not get it. I wanted it solely for Iron Man, for Rick and Morty, and I was just like, that's not enough for me to spend what it cost on it. And you guys nailed it with the tech demos. It's just like, I'm sure you guys remember when the Nintendo DS launched. And it was like the first like 2 years of games like Yoshi Touch and Go and all these games that were like glorified tech demos that just capitalized on the stylus. I feel like the PS4 VR was just, there were so many games that were just like, this is what we could do with the VR. This isn't everything that we can do, and we don't want to take the risk of actually developing something solely for this, but we'll give you a little taste of something, but we'll still charge you $60, $70 for a game. So it's just like, until there's like this super fleshed out VR experience that is only VR and not like, you know, a game that, oh, you could play it in VR and in standard, then I'm not going to like fully take the plunge. And the thing is, I so want to, but I won't. So that's my thought on PlayStation VR and PlayStation VR 2.
All right, Joe in the chat says PSVR 2 is a dead stop with this nonsense. Okay.
He's not wrong.
All right, so let's get into this article here. This is coming from Insider Gaming. This is going to be our part one of our topics of the week. This is written by Mike Straw over at InsiderGaming.com. I'm going to try to read this as fast as possible. I'm going to read the whole entire article because it kind of makes a couple points in here. Shortly after launch, reports circulated that PlayStation VR 2 sales were disappointing. There were even claims that the Sony decided to cut production of what its virtual reality headset. Though many look to criticize Sony for the perceived poor launch of the headset, the context of the numbers paints a completely different story. Costing $550, the second-generation gaming headset requires the PlayStation 5 to function and lacks backwards compatibility with the original VR games. The price and functionality of one analyst...
Strike one.
This price and functionality have one analyst in a new Bloomberg report thinking that the product is heading towards failure. Quote, I suspect the price cut on the VR2 will be needed to avoid a complete disaster of their new product, end quote. That's IDC's Francisco Gerolimo, Vice President of Data and...
Geronimo.
No, it's not Geronimo.
Well, it kind of looks like it with a J instead of a G, but
okay.
I'm stuck at English.
In the same article, it stated that Sony is expected to have sold between 270,000 and 300,000 PlayStation VR 2 headsets from its February 22 launch through the end of March. Though Geronimo's comments indicate a disappointment, the actual numbers are anything but. If the nearly 300,000 headsets are accurate, PlayStation VR 2 would be the best-selling VR headset launch in the history of its newer medium. Looking at sales numbers gathered by Twitter user Lurian, the PlayStation VR 2 sales actually put it at the top wired headset in its first month. That's just based on no numbers, however. The first PlayStation VR headset sold about 915,000 units in the first 5 months. PlayStation VR 2 has sold nearly a third of that in just one. If the numbers stay similar to the first month, it would take about 19 months for the PlayStation VR 2 to surpass the original 5 million sold at 270,000 per month. Obviously, that number isn't going to be the case, and things will fluctuate as time and availability of games. Still, if Sony has sold as many headsets so far as is claimed, it should be viewed as nothing less short of a success for the company. And then the last thing is they reached out for article or comment, and Sony has not replied. I'm sorry. Joe was trying to troll me in the chat. Fuck the Devils, Joe. So, Alex, I'll go to you first.
No, that's what Jack Hughes is going to do to the entire Rangers defense next week.
Alex,
in every position possible.
Alex, you were a little vocal when I posted this to our Facebook chat. Do you want to lead us off here?
I mean, I think that given how much it costs, I think that, unless there is a price cut, the people who've wanted to buy it have probably already bought it. They were the ones, the technophiles that have to have the new cutting edge tech, and were probably a lot of the first adopters when the original PSVR came out. The problem is that this is the second generation console, and following what was rather lackluster game library for the PSVR, you trying to grow your audience. I mean, the article talked about at this rate, they'll outstyle the PSVR by this point. Well, the PSVR was also brand new, and now you have the second one, and now you're working against any of the negative bias or any of the negativity or any of the cons that the original system brought up, which was, again, not great support as far as the games go. So you're essentially spending over almost $600 on how much? Wait, is it $550 or $650?
$550.
$550. You're spending almost $600 for what essentially is a console for not a lot of games. And is that something you really want to spend your money on when you could just buy a PlayStation 5 and you've got tons of games to play? So, I mean, maybe comparing the numbers purely like out of the gate against the VR, the PSVR, maybe it's favorable. But again, we'll see how much of an uphill climb it is for Sony with the articles coming out, essentially suggesting it's a flop from the start, that they need to already cut the price. And then also people's perception that Sony doesn't support things like this, and they just put them out there. And we're on a second generation, so the game library isn't compatible on both of them. And so again, do enough people see a bright future with the VR to invest, or is the people who bought it at the beginning wanted it no matter what? Because when we talked to Matt and Veronica, they have VR. They've already, Matt said basically, no, we're not going to buy the VR 2, even though we like VR, and we're PlayStation fans. So out of the gate, maybe compares favorably, but again, this is a marathon, and you, with lesser people, a lesser install base, you're not making as much money because people aren't buying as much software, and it's double the fact when you're not putting out as much software that people want to buy. So are people going to buy the system just to buy one game a year, 2 games? Is that worth it? I don't know. I'm still very... I still say that the PSVR 2 is going to flop. And I think that we've already seen that. Because, Sony had, over 2 million at launch available? Mm-hmm. So clearly they're forecasting better sales than 300,000 in the first month. If you have that many available, you're assuming you're going to sell quite a bit out the gate, and they didn't even hit a fourth of that. So I don't know. To me, it doesn't look good for the PSVR 2, regardless of what this article says. Now, in the long haul, will I be proven wrong? Potentially. But yeah, I think there's just enough apprehension about not only VR, but the PSVR that you may not see, the sales tail is going to die, I think, pretty quickly.
All right, Yield.
So you've heard me joke, and Patrick agreed, that the VR, all we had was a glorified tech demos for games. We had Moss. I think there was another one when we talked about this last time, Tricky. You brought up a couple of other games that were actually legit games. So take the 3, we'll say 5, that were actually legit games. What I wanted to see in this VR coming out was, like Patrick said, I want to see more of a fleshed out game, and that's what you're giving me, because at $550, as Alex pointed out, I'm spending another console. First Strike is not backwards compatible. Now, could we patch that in? Possibly, but that's a first strike right away for those people who are already invested in VR the first time around. And 2, for people who you might want to try to invest or coax to VR this time around. You can't play the VR games from last generation on this one. So it feels doomed from the get-go. Sony pimped it out to begin with, and now they've gone dark. And this is kind of where, in essence, if you've sold 300,000 in the first month, this is where you kind of need to be striking while the iron's hot. Instead, you're kind of quiet, sitting on the sidelines. So it seems doomed.
All right, before I throw it to Patrick, just want to 2 things. Joe says, no install base. Companies will cancel their games or switch them to non-VR. Plus, Sony can't support 2 things at once.
You ain't wrong.
And they have a handheld console that they're apparently working on too at the same time. I'm not sure if you guys saw that article. So it's just like,
yeah, we talked.
Yeah, we haven't. It's no, Sony, don't stop the handheld. Stop. Like I said, their handheld will be one of 2 things. Well, actually, it'll be both things. It'll be a glorified PlayStation 5 controller, because that's what the Vita turned into, and you won't support it properly outside the first year, maybe 2.
All right, and a lot of people give flack to the VR2, rightfully so, that it's not backwards compatible, but that basically boils down to the VR2 does not need a camera. You don't use a camera with the VR2, so a lot of the games would not be picked up properly from the VR headset unless the company went back and redesigned their game, which I forget the company that did Moss, but they re-released Moss for the VR2, and a lot of people were expecting it to be a free upgrade to the VR2, and they didn't do that. They actually charged, and they came out and said, well, we could have just upgraded for free, but we had to spend man hours to do this and a lot of time to upgrade this. We deserve to get paid for our work, so they wound up charging it for the VR2, which I don't hate on because they were out front saying, "Listen,
they're right."
Well,
we even said when Sony was coming out and they were doing all this free upgrade, it does two things. One, it does build good PR, but then eventually when those first people break off and go, whoa, we want paid because we spent a lot of man hours on this, then you start to get the backlash of going, well, wait, everybody else was free. This needs to be free. I'm offended.
Well,
right.
And it's like you have to see both sides of the fence in this. Why it's great to get free, you should know eventually they're going to pull that rug out from underneath you, quote unquote, because they're not going to get free forever. This is just to get you excited. It's kind of like a drug dealer. Here, this first bit's free. Now you're going to start paying.
All right, Patrick, floor is yours.
No, I mean, you guys pretty much nailed it. I mean, there's so many people. What did Clint Eastwood once say? Man's got to know his limitations. And it's like Sony, home consoles have been your bread and butter for, let's see now, close to 30 years. I love the PSP. I have a soft spot for the Vita, but they are not in any way, shape, or form close to anything that Nintendo does in terms of a handheld. So they should stay out of that lane. And then like VR, just focus on what you're good at. And then that's the thing too. It's just like when you think about the Nintendo Switch, what is the Nintendo Switch? It's probably the best handheld that Nintendo has ever made that streams onto a home television. So they again, Nintendo knows its limitations and found a way to create a hybrid console that gave home console people what they wanted, but also allowed people to still play handheld, which is Nintendo's strongest point. So my whole thing is just like, you've got to know your limitations. You've got to work from strength on a consistent basis to be as successful as you need to be. And between the new VR and the possibility of another Sony handheld, yeah, it's not smart decisions on as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so Patrick, I have to ask you this because obviously you've done research and you know a lot of the history.
Mm-hmm.
In a hypothetical world, if Sony had supported the Vita the way that should have been supported, with games and updates and stuff like that, would you not agree that the Vita could rival the Switch and was the technology was much better than what the 3DS was? That Sony, if they had supported it, would have blown the 3DS out of the water? Would you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You don't agree with that?
So this is the thing. The Atari Lynx had far better hardware, visualocity. We'll just make up a word here. I'm getting old macho man. Visualocity. Produced much better looking games. The Game Gear produced much better looking games than the Game Boy. Game Boy games look like trash in 1990, and they look even worse today. But Nintendo had a massive first party catalog that people came and they played in droves. They played Super Mario Land. They played Kirby. They played Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. They came for the games. Name 5 first party games on the Vita that were awesome.
Golden Abyss.
No, that ended up going to the console too, though.
No, Golden Abyss never went to the console.
First party non-console exclusive, like just for the handheld.
Golden Abyss, Sackboy.
That's one. Was there a Sackboy game?
There was a Sackboy game.
There was a Sackboy for the Vita. Okay. Yeah.
Why am I drawing the bike? Daryl's in the chat. Daryl, help me out.
Resistance Burning Skies wasn't bad.
Yes.
It wasn't. But it's like, guys, this is like one of those questions when you ask your wife, do you love me? And she says yes, hopefully, right away. And then when you say,
why?
Why? And she has to think you're in trouble. So I'm sure you guys could name 5 amazing first-party games on the 3DS now.
Yeah, if you gave us time.
You said on the 3DS.
On the 3DS.
On the 3DS? Well,
Easily.
yeah,
Easily.
you got Zelda, you got Super Mario.
I mean, I would even go as far as Yokai Watch was better than anything that was released on the Vita. Like, you're talking like a 60-hour Japanese RPG. Like, there was nothing like that even remotely that immersive on the Vita. And I got the Vita. I played the hell out of the show on it, but it was never going to be like what it was. And just the user interface wasn't that good. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. It wasn't a fun gaming machine. And the thing is, it's just like, why are we doing this? And it's just like more people today mod their Vita and PSPs than play the actual games on them.
That is true.
That doesn't happen on Nintendo handhelds. I own 3 Game Boys, and I still play the games on the Game Boy, despite the fact that I said before that they look atrocious, because they're still fun and they're custom-made experiences only for that handheld. When Sony learns how to do that, so like the best game to appear on a Sony handheld, NFL Street 2. It plays fantastic. It was made within the hardware limitations of the PSP, and it plays fantastic. It's a great football game on its own merit. There's not many games on the PSP or the Vita that you can say that about. So until Sony learns how to do that, then they're just going to keep releasing consoles that just after a while. So
Joe left 2 comments in the chat. He says Vita is an anime titty machine, and then he 5 games for the Nintendo. He says Fire Emblem Awakening, Link Between Worlds, Kid Icarus Uprising, Metroid 2, Return of Samus, and WarioWare Touched. 2 of those I never even heard of.
There you go.
All exclusives, which is what yep. I felt doomed. One of the reasons that felt doomed to Vita was because if you, I'm sure we all remember that when there would be a halfway decent game on the Vita, and it's like, good, you got an exclusive. That's how you draw up attention for the Vita is exclusives. All the gamers were like, well, I want to play this on my 4. Sony, okay. And it's like, so now you're killing sales from your handheld because, well, I can just play it on my couch now. I don't need to have that to play it. And that's what I felt made, the DS and the 3DS so good, because Nintendo wouldn't be like, well, you can play this on the Wii or the Wii U. No, you had to buy a 3DS or a DS to play it. That's because
they had a priority towards their handhelds that Sony has never had and never wanted to have in the first place. So.
All right. Yeah, you've killed Vita Island for me.
I still love the console. It's not it's not.
It didn't live up to what it was supposed to be.
No, it didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do want to give an honorary shout out to Freedom Wars. That was a great Vita game. All right, so at this point, we're going to turn the show over, and Patrick, you are going to be our topic.
Yay.
We do have some questions for you, but first, for anybody who doesn't know you, why don't you give us a brief history of who you are and what you've done, and so our audience gets to know you a little bit more.
Sure. My name is Patrick Hickey Jr. I am the editor-in-chief and owner of ReviewFix.com. I am the editor-in-chief and owner of Legacy Comics. I am the director of the journalism program at Kingsborough Community College in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York. I'm the chairperson of the City University of New York Journalism Discipline Council. I'm a former NBC editor. I've written 7 books on video game history in the Minds Behind the Game series, it's mine from McFarland and Company Publishers. They're in over 2,000 libraries worldwide. I'm also a voice actor in the video game industry. I've starred in games such as The Padre, One Shell Straight to Hell, The Caillou Offensive, and I also do anywhere from like 60 to 90 voices in Megacat Studios and Skybound Games' upcoming Japanese RPG, WrestleQuest. I've also done voices on the Atari VCS's BPM Boy. I'm doing voices on Polygunner for the Atari VCS and a couple of other games in development that I can't talk about right now. So I'm a voice actor, I'm a journalist, I'm an author, I'm a comic book writer. So that's me.
So you're a little busy.
A little, just a little,
Okay,
just a little.
I'm trying to pick up the questions right. I'll give you 1 second.
Man.
Alex, if you want to kick us off with one of your questions.
Well, most of my questions are specific to WrestleQuest. So I figure you guys had more general questions about Patrick and his career, and I was going to say let's do those first and then do specific WrestleQuest towards the end. Do you want to do that? Because all mine are WrestleQuest.
That's fine. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying. They're spread out over like 3 different chats, so I'm trying to find like one of the chats, and they're not coming up. All right, so I got one. Okay, so first question is, what inspired you to pursue a career in game journalism, and how did you get your start in the field?
So I was writing. I was a journalism major at Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn, New York, and I started writing for the school newspaper, and they made me sports editor the first day. They had nobody. So we needed to fill up the paper with content. And I'm like, oh, why don't we write video game reviews? So I remember reviewing Street Fighter Alpha 3 on the Game Boy Advance and Madden 2005. And that was like the beginning of my career writing video game reviews. But then what ended up happening was after I got my bachelor's degree, I started my entertainment website, which is reviewfix.com. And I started interviewing video game developers and had a ton. I still do to this day have a ton of fun speaking to game developers and getting the behind the scenes stories of the games. To me, I love playing video games, but I love hearing about how they're made. So the funny part is, like, this all started from a community college student newspaper, and now we're talking 7 books, 2,000 libraries, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, UCLA, Berkeley, like all those places. I give talks all over the place. I've given panels at 2 PAX East, 1 PAX West. I'm going to be at the Video Game Summit in Chicago in July, talking. I do cons and speaking engagements all the time. It's so much fun talking about video game history. And it all started as some 18-year-old kid with really long hair and a tongue ring that wanted to write about video games. So,
all right.
Crazy.
Next question. You've written exclusively about the history of video games. What do you think are the most important milestones in the industry's development, and why do you think that?
Oof, that's hard. I would definitely say the using air quotes here, the death of Atari, of the video game industry. The death was important because it shifted a monumental adaptation amongst many game developers. Many amazing game developers on the Atari 2600 had no jobs, and they had to go into creating games for other consoles like the Commodore 64 and the PC and stuff like that. And then eventually when the games industry started to rebound, and you started to get all of these amazing games for the NES and for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, a lot of those guys were teaching, guys and gals, were teaching the next generation of game developers. So the death of Atari and the death of the North American video game industry in 1982 was a huge adaptation on the games industry. Also, I would say the PlayStation was a huge change. CD-based consoles, huge change. But also, too, I mean, the Game Boy, the Nintendo Game Boy, probably one of the most successful consoles in gaming history because it proved that you did not need to have the best visuals. You just needed to make games that people would play. And I feel like there's so many console creators that you see on Kickstarter all the time. They're creating a new console and oh, it can do this and it could do that and it can do this. And like Sony kind of falls into the category sometimes too of like they want a machine that can play. I mean, think about the PS2. Why the PS2 was so successful because it played DVDs. If you bring the games, they will come, and I feel like the Game Boy is like one of the perfect examples of that. So like the invention of the handheld market, the proper invention, because Game & Watch existed way before the Game Boy, the arrival of the PlayStation, and the death of the North American video game industry in 1982. I feel like those are 3 monumental moments of video game history that changed it forever.
All right, Alex, do you want to jump in before I ask the next question?
I'd have to pull mine up. You can go ahead. I'm
No,
enjoying listening.
No, I'm saying, did you want to respond to anything he said? That's what I was asking.
Oh no, I agree with that. I hadn't thought of. I think it's real easy to forget about 82 and the death of video games, and that makes it makes a lot of sense.
All right, next question. Your book, The Minds Behind Games, features interviews with some of the most influential game developers of all time. What are some of the most surprising or insightful things you've learned from those interviews?
There's so many. So I've literally interviewed through 7 books. I've probably interviewed over 500 developers. Probably around 300 on the record, and then like 200 off the record for background and clarification on things. And I've had developers tell me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know, but you can't put me in the book and you can't quote me directly. But if you're going to interview so-and-so, ask them this. And blah, blah, blah. So just like, there's been so many situations like that. But to give you guys like 2 quick stories, one of them was I was in a hotel with Michael Brook, who was the assistant producer on the original Madden, the original Madden on Sega Genesis. There was a Madden before the Sega Genesis one by Robin Antonick on the PC that John Madden himself called an abortion. But I was in a hotel with him, and we sat down for 3 hours, and we were just talking, and then he basically came and told me that Electronic Arts finished Joe Montana Football. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, what happened was Sega was not happy that Electronic Arts, I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but Electronic Arts backwards engineered the NES and the Sega Genesis. And they made their own cartridges for those consoles, which saved them a ton of money. It saved them a ton on so many. It kept them in business for quite some time, that they were able to like work their way around and not have to ask Nintendo or Sega to make their cartridges for them. Sega was not happy about this, so Sega was going to sue Electronic Arts until Sega saw John Madden Football on the Sega Genesis. Then they basically were like, oh, this game looks good. We want to buy it off of you. And the lead producer on Madden was on vacation at the time, because they had a rule that if you worked 7 years at Electronic Arts, you got 7 days off. So this guy was on his vacation, and Michael Brook was like with Trip Hawkins, the CEO of Electronic Arts at the time, on this phone call with Sega. And they were like, absolutely not. We're not going to sell it to you. So then Sega was like, okay, well, we need to figure this out. So what Michael Brook in his infinite wisdom is basically like, well, why do you want to buy it off of us? And they were like, well, we have this team that is working on this football game that we have Joe Montana as like our cover athlete for, but we're not happy with it. So then Michael Brook is like, okay, so you know what we'll do? We'll take a look at it and we'll give you some pointers and this and that. But what ended up happening was Sega let go of the entire development team and had Electronic Arts finish the game. Park Place Productions finished the game. An interesting story behind that was that they put instant replay in Joe Montana Football. And they realized that it was so freaking cool that if Joe Montana came out at the same time as Madden with instant replay, it would be the first NFL game to ever have instant replay, that it could probably sell more than their game. So EA was in a really tricky position of they were working directly with their competition, so this way they wouldn't get sued, but they couldn't make their competition's game better than their game. So what ended up happening was Sega comes calling and is like, well, is the game done? And they're like, yeah, we're really close to finishing, but we were trying to put instant replay in the game, and it's not really working. And we feel like if we could take that out, then we could ship the game like today or tomorrow to you. Like we could give you the ROM and it would be finished. And Sega was like, yeah, no problem. So they ended up putting instant replay in the next Madden game, which I'm pretty sure was Madden 92 or Madden 93. So when Michael Brook told me that story, I'm like, does anyone else like know this story? He's like, oh, Trip Hawkins did an interview like 10 years ago for some magazine that's like out of print, but it's nowhere online or anything like that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be in my book. Like it's going to be like only in my book. So that was like an amazing moment. The other one that immediately comes to mind was I was interviewing the lead localization manager for Squaresoft, who worked on Final Fantasy VII, and he was basically explaining how they had a room of like 50 gameplay testers and debuggers and stuff that were playing Final Fantasy VII before anyone else, and translating all of the language, and they're pointing out that like Barrett was like pretty racist in the beginning, and they had to like clean up a lot of the language in the game. But then they got to a point where one guy started hysterical crying during testing. And these guys are all playing the game at like relatively the same pace. Like they're all like a couple of minutes ahead of each other, but they're like pretty much playing the game at the same pace. So then what ends up happening is this guy starts crying, and then another guy is telling everyone, you must stop playing. You cannot keep playing. Stop playing. And you know, this lead localization manager is like, what's going on? He thought there was like a game crashing bug or anything. Can you guys guess what was happening? What they were experiencing for the first time in Final Fantasy VII?
The end.
The death of Aerith.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But that happens at the end of the game, doesn't it?
No. It's like the end. It's like the end of like the second disc.
Oh, okay. Because obviously you have to fight Sephiroth after that. But I didn't. I always thought it was closer to the end of the game, but I guess not. Because that game had 3 discs.
Yeah. So when I was told that story, that was just kind of like, damn, it's nuts. I mean, I've interviewed like the creators of like Yar's Revenge, of E.T., NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat, like Red Dead. I mean, there's so many games in my books, but like those 2 stories to me always like stuck out as like super important. Like just being in a room with 50 guys, 50 amazing players that it's their job to play through games and fix them, and they all start like bawling and getting emotional all at the same time because of a character's death in a game. I mean, it's pretty wild. So those are 2 moments that really like stuck out to me the most.
All right. Jasper's from the chat. This is my question. This is Jasper's. I don't know if it's a he or she, but they want to know, why did the Nintendo GameCube not do as good as the Nintendo wanted?
That's a tough question. I would say just look at those 3 consoles from that console generation. The Microsoft Xbox. Why do they call it an Xbox? Because it's basically a PC gaming machine. It's basically playing games DirectX. A lot of developers loved to develop on the Xbox because of its hardware. A lot of developers did not like to develop on the PlayStation 2 because of its hardware. But the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 both had what? What did they both have?
CDs.
Games.
Well, games and DVD player.
Yeah, but DVD player, yeah.
Yeah, and the GameCube had some killer first-party games. But if you look at their third-party games, they usually didn't stack up the same exact way. You know, they played better on the Xbox and the PlayStation. And the thing is, too, so in order to define like a console's like longevity and their ability to sell at a mass market level, you've got to think about one most important, first party exclusives. Super important. Okay. Nintendo always wins that. Sony may come close. Microsoft is always number 3, but all 3 of them have strong first party exclusives. So then obviously the deal breaker is going to be graphical power, peripherals, and then obviously third party exclusives. Xbox had a bunch of third party exclusives thanks to Tecmo, Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden, or Gaiden, depending on what language you speak. But GameCube, what were the third party exclusives on the GameCube? Resident Evil 0, which was a remake. But I mean, there wasn't many. So the thing is, the PS2 gave you like the best combination of both first party exclusives and third party exclusives, and then they released a ton of games. The PS2 library is massive, and compared to all the other, like, I'm pretty sure Xbox had a bigger console library than the GameCube. So a lack of third party exclusives, a lack of games period, and a lack of a DVD player really hurt the GameCube.
All right.
And also you start to see Nintendo's fortunes turn with the N64 generation, because despite the fact that the N64 was a really good console, they now had, SNES had the competition from Genesis, but also you see PlayStation come around with the N64, and we did the overall sales of consoles within the last 6 months here on the show, and it was surprising how little or how low the sales for both the SNES and the N64 were, specifically the N64. So you start to see that turn happen around the N64. So the GameCube might have had a little bit of an uphill battle from the start.
If it wasn't for the Game Boy family of consoles, I've said this before on other podcasts, but I'll say it again. If it wasn't for the Nintendo Game Boy family of consoles, Nintendo does not exist today. Okay, think of it this way. Nintendo 64, largely a failure. GameCube, largely a failure. Before that, the Virtual Boy, absolute failure. The Wii, a success, but an awful library of games, like a ton of shovelware, garbage. And the Wii U is a failure. What's the one constant going through this the entire time? The DS is a massive success. The Game Boy Advance is a massive success. The Game Boy Color is a massive success. The 3DS is a massive success. What is the Switch? The Switch is kind of like what happens when you mash together all of the best things about every Nintendo handheld and add in a little bit of like the Wii U, what the Wii U could have been. Again, Nintendo working from strength. Why would Nintendo go to the Nintendo 64 and not release like any Japanese RPGs on their console after they had a litany of success on the Super Nintendo with games like Chrono Trigger, Earthbound? We could name the amazing RPGs, Final Fantasies. They had amazing RPGs on the Super Nintendo, and for some reason, the Nintendo 64, they forgot how to like market a third-party lineup for their consoles. Like, what happened? And then the PlayStation 1 gave us so many amazing RPGs, All right. And they gave us brand new sports games. A lot of people forget, like, EA didn't release like a hockey game like the first year. They didn't release a Madden the first year of the PlayStation. And Sony was like, you know what? That's okay. We got it. NHL Face-Off, NFL Game Day. And so Sony stepped up and filled in the gaps in their catalog in a way that like Nintendo couldn't. And that the PlayStation was a massive success. They put games that people would play in their hands. And then when EA finally learned how to develop games properly on the PlayStation, by the time we get to like NHL 98, Madden 98, Triple Play 98, and stuff like that, now all of a sudden, now you've got competition. I miss those days. I missed it when there was 4 or 5 great basketball games, hockey, baseball, all at the same time. It's a forgotten time in gaming history.
All right. Excuse me.
Don't die on us. We need
No. I shouldn't smoke while we record. I shouldn't smoke in general. But some comments from the chat. Daryl, I'm gonna read your question, but we're gonna skip it. We're not gonna answer it because we kind of already touched on it. Daryl wants to know, why is the PlayStation Vita the most underrated console ever made and the best handheld literally ever? We already touched on that. We're not gonna go down that.
He's right though. He's right. To an extent. Oh, scary.
Joe says it's not, and then Jasper says, did companies join PlayStation and Xbox because of Nintendo's past stranglehold of the games, like telling them to buy cartridges and limited games they could make for the NES? Let me read that again. Did companies join PlayStation and Xbox because of Nintendo's past stranglehold of the games, like telling them to buy cartridges and limited games they could make for the NES?
Well, this is the thing too. Like, that's the reason why companies like Ultra exists. Ultra was just a subdivision of Konami, but Nintendo said, Konami, you can only release so many games on our console. So Konami was like, okay, so we'll create a parent company and call it Ultra. And Acclaim did it. Acclaim had like 4 or 5 different. That's LJN is another brand of Acclaim. So when competition comes out, so this is the thing. Competition creates controversy. Controversy creates cash. Whenever a new console comes out and you're a game developer, you need to find out who these people are, have a meeting with them, and see what they can offer you. You never marry somebody in business. The second that like you hit a rut and business starts to go down, you've got to like say, okay, let's move on. So a lot of game developers, after the NES and the SNES, they moved on and they went to Sony, and then they went to Microsoft. And they went this way, that way. That's just part of the industry. So Nintendo created some rules that like didn't help a lot of developers. And can you blame them for going to Sony and to Microsoft and to any other console maker? Absolutely not. You've got to stay in business, So yeah, man.
All right, so 2 comments from Joe. Nintendo lived off that Super Nintendo money for years.
Yeah.
And he says Nintendo limited games to have quality control, but as Patrick said, companies found ways around it. So, yeah. All right. So, going back to my questions, do you ever find it challenging to remain objective when writing about games that you're particularly passionate about?
No, and for the reason why, it's so funny, and you'll appreciate this, my New York Rangers fan friend. When I had my Islanders site, Drive for Five, I used to get emails every day asking me if I was a Rangers fan, because I was so critical of the team. And I would just break things down and the thing is, I find it, if I'm passionate about a game, if I love a game, I'm going to be that much more inquisitive. And the thing is, if I don't like a game personally and I think it's trash, I'm going to work twice as hard to find something good about the game and something interesting that somebody can latch onto. So, like, perfect example, I think one of the best chapters that I've ever written in any of my 7 books is on Night Trap. And so many people consider Night Trap to be one of the worst games of all time. And before I interviewed, I think 4 members of the team, I might have agreed. And then when I found out what went into the creation of that game, it's just lost potential. Like, the game should have came out in 1985. Could you imagine controlling a B slasher movie in 1985? That's the same year Super Mario Brothers came out. It would have been huge. And then what happened was the Sega CD came out, and Sega was just trying to find as many different games that they could put on this console as possible. So they came across a library of games on a failed Hasbro system, and they grabbed all of these licenses and they released all of these games 7 years after they were originally released. And they expected them to sell? They expected them to review well? Are you serious? So when I found out all of that stuff, I was kind of like, man, I love Night Trap. And when it was re-released, I know the team that ported it, and they worked their asses off porting it. They did it line by line because a lot of that code was lost forever. So that was definitely like a labor of love. And I played through it again, and I beat it, and I acknowledge that those guys worked their asses off on that game. So to answer your question, like, no, I'm just, if I love the game, it may be a little bit easier for me to tell its story. But each chapter of my, so all of my books are broken up into chapters, and each chapter is based on a game, and none of it is based on my opinion. It's all based on sales numbers, and it's based on interviews with the developers. So I let the developers tell the story. I don't say, oh, I think there's not one I think, Red Dead is the greatest game ever. There's not, and there's no I in my book at all. And just to set the record straight too, there's a lot of video game writers out there, air quote, that release books that are solely like a paragraph or 2 on every game ever released on the console with like no reporting or anything like that. That's not how I roll. That's not how I do business. So yeah, to answer your question, like, no, it's not hard for me to stay objective at all. I'm a journalist. I have 3 degrees in journalism. I teach journalism. Like, it's what I do.
All right. Couple more questions here. In recent years, there's been a lot of debate about the role of video games in society, particularly with regards to issues like violence and addiction. How do you think the industry should respond to those concerns?
I think people should. I don't think it's an industry thing. I think you could be addicted to anything, and it can hurt your life. You could be addicted to coffee. You could be addicted to sitting on your couch watching Judge Judy. You could be addicted to mediocrity. And I feel like people are defined by their addictions many of the time. And the the series of addictions they have kind of mold them into the person that they eventually become. So like for me, I'm addicted to creating things. I'm addicted to spending time with my children. I'm addicted to reading. I'm addicted to coffee. But I'm not addicted to things that like take me away from the person that I want to be, and that's the person that loves to create things and do podcasts and talk about like really cool stuff that people make. So the thing is, like, it's not the video games industry to monitor how people are addicted to them. The fact is, you could be addicted to anything, and people need to take care of themselves emotionally. I think that's the big problem in this country, in this world, is that we have a huge mental health epidemic, that people don't take care of themselves, and they use video games as an escape the same way that they use drugs and alcohol as an escape. So video games are an amazing escape. The Fallout series literally got me through graduate school and my first year of teaching. Huge place in my heart for that series. Final Fantasy VII got me through like a year of high school where I was just like the only like white kid in a school. You know, like, it was super hard for me, and coming home and kicking ass in Final Fantasy VII made bad days great. But at the end of the day, I still had to go out and be the person that I needed to be. So the thing is, like, it's not the video games industry to tell people how to live. Games, though, are created in ways to make people stay and play longer. And the thing is, though, if you're smart enough and you become cognizant of it, like, am I going to play for another 17 hours to get this? Or am I just going to say, you know what, I should probably spend time with my kids? Or should I go out and you know, go watch a movie or go for a walk or something like that? It's not the video games industry to do all those things. So people need to be more responsible for their actions. I hope that answers it. I got a little Dr. Phil on you. I apologize.
All right. So last question before we switch it over to the WrestleQuest side.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to anybody aspiring to be a game journalist or writers who are looking to break into the industry?
I would probably give them like an RG 351. I'd probably give them mine. That has probably like 20,000 ROMs on it, from the Atari 2600 to the Dreamcast, and I would say I would give them a list of probably like 1,000 games that they need to play, and then I would probably give them books by Brett Weiss, Leonard Herman. There's a couple of other really good gaming writers out there, and let them understand that just because they have a ton of games, and just because they have, I'm sorry guys, I love you all, but just because they have a ton of trophies doesn't mean that they could be a games writer. You know, it gives you a heads up because you guys can play. But then you have to be able to be super critical, and then the thing is, you have to be able to do an interview, and you have to be able to develop to work on time and stuff like that. So yeah, I would give them a host of books, and I would give them an RG 351V with like 20,000 ROMs on it, with like the greatest of every console generation, and I would tell them, you need to play and you need to read. So,
all right. Now we're going to flip it over to the WrestleQuest side before we go to Alex and Neil for their questions. We did have a question from the chat, and we're kind of putting you on the spot here, Patrick.
Yeah.
Joe wants to know, who's better, Macho Man or Ric Flair? And if you can cut a Royal Rumble promo of them, explaining why.
Ooh. That's a super difficult question. One, because like I admire both of those guys. I would say in the ring, there was no one more prepared and methodical than the Macho Man Randy Savage. If you guys don't know, the Macho Man would plan out his matches like super methodically, like to the point where they would be like 100 to like 150 different spots in the match, and he would have his opponent like memorize them, and he would go to like Ricky Steamboat, what's 76? And Ricky Steamboat would go, what? 76, Ricky, what's 76? And like one of the only people that could remember all of those spots was Diamond Dallas Page. And that's one of the reasons why the two of those guys had amazing matches together, because they were both like super nerdy for like the intricacies of wrestling, where Ric Flair would go out and call a match on the spot, and he would be able to like give a one-of-a-kind match like on the spot, calling it as he went. Like ring general, absolutely. So I don't know. Super hard question. As far as cutting a promo, I don't. They had a little mini feud at one point. I don't think they ever went at it the way that they would have wanted to. But
Yeah, the Macho Man, he would be like, Ric Flair, you're all about wheeling and dealing. The only thing you're dealing in is plane tickets, swinging around your wanker on like TV, oh yeah.
And Ric Flair would just be laughing his ass off because Ric Flair like literally did that. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
The plane ride from hell, the helicopter.
Yes.
So yeah. So I don't even know if Ric Flair would be able to answer that, and I'm sorry if my promo is a little low. I have children sleeping in the other room, so
You're fine.
That's why I don't want to go. I don't want to go too loud.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, that would be pretty funny because that's the thing too. Macho Man had a way of sprinkling in like real stuff about people in his promos that were always really good. Like if you were an insider, you would be like, oh, was he supposed to say that? So and I don't know if Ric Flair would be able to cut a promo like that on Randy because he was like really like squeaky clean away from some of the. There's a couple of controversial moments in Macho Man's career that I won't touch base in yet, but that would be a fun promo to say the least.
Stephanie.
I didn't hear what you just said, so I won't ask you to repeat it. So.
Nice Dreams 1 came into the chat, and I guess this is something you will know. Eagle noise.
Eagle noise?
Yes. I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought maybe it was one of your fans came in. You would know the reference.
Eagle noise. I don't know.
All right, so Yield, why don't you lead us off with the questions about Wrestle? Oh, wait, well, before we do that, Patrick, just give us a rundown of WrestleQuest. I mean, I talked about it because, I told everybody that I met you at PAX East.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Why you got to do that? I mean, just because I intentionally wore a Ranger shirt to go meet you, like,
I know, it was bad.
Tell us about WrestleQuest.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's what people expect it to be, and,
Sure. Oh, absolutely. So, WrestleQuest is a love letter to Japanese RPGs, such as Paper Mario, Pokemon, Dragon's Quest, Earthbound, that has been WrestleFied. What do I mean by WrestleFied? So, it's a 40 to 50 hour Japanese RPG, that introduces wrestling mechanics to the turn-based combat. The story is about a young protege of the Macho Man, Randy Savage, Randy Muchacho Man Santos, I'm sorry, and his rise through the indies to wrestling superstardom. There's 12 playable characters. There's hundreds of NPCs. There's over 30 licensed professional wrestlers in the game, from the Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, Jeff Jarrett, Diamond Dallas Page, Coco Beware, the Junkyard Dog, Jake the Snake Roberts, Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, if you grew up watching wrestling in the 80s and 90s, if you love pop culture of the 80s and 90s, this is an RPG that takes place in just this really fun toy box world that just mishmashes amazing RPG gameplay and pop culture and professional wrestling in a way that's never been done before. And I'm super happy to be a part of it. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised when they play this game next month.
I mean, you guys did good promo PAX East having live wrestling matches. That was a good promotion. Yeah, man. I saw those crowds. That was insane. And
yeah, it was insane. I don't think anything like that has ever been done in PAX East. And just being there, like I was telling the guys, like I mentioned Michael Brook before, the guy that was the assistant producer on the original Madden, and he's like a founding father of EA Sports. He wrote the foreword to my Minds Behind the Sports games, and we speak a lot. And he gave me this great quote one time. He was just like, you live your life, and a lot of the time people aren't cognizant of like the great things that they're doing while they're doing them. And sometimes you can just stop and go, oh my God, what's going on right now is probably like one of the coolest things that will ever happen to me in my entire life. He's like, Pat, you've got to like be able to like allow yourself to recognize when that happens. And I said, okay. And that was like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And when we were at PAX East and we saw all of those people and then the pictures on Twitter started to come in.
Yes.
Of like from up high, it just reminded me of the first Monday Nitro at the Mall of America, where there was just like 800, 900 people around the wrestling ring watching, and it was just like one of the coolest moments of my voice acting career. Just to be a part of something like that, just amazing.
All right, Yield, lead us off with the questions.
So when Mega Cat Studios came to you to do the game, was this a no-brainer, or did they have to sell you on it?
So the thing is, I know the guys from Mega Cat for probably like 9 years. They started out doing cartridge-based like new games on the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sega Genesis. So when I found out what they were doing 8 or 9 years ago, I started speaking to James Deegan. He's the big boss, the Mega Cat of Mega Cat Studios, and we used to just talk about press releases, about building an audience, because I ran this little entertainment website, reviewfix.com. We've been around now for like 13, 14 years. We get like 5,000 uniques a day. And we make a profit from it. And, he was just picking my brain about what I did, and I was picking his brain about what he did. And whenever they came out with a new game, I was totally down to interview them, and I love what they did. And then I got my first voice acting role in The Padre, which came out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, the whole 9 yards. And when it came out, one of the trailers got like 500,000 views, and I was the narrator on the trailer too. And James was like, "Oh, so you do voiceover now?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he was just like, "Oh, well, I got this." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm down." And it started with me just doing VO for like the NPCs, and then helping them doing some writing for some promotional stuff, because I know a ton about professional wrestling. I've interviewed hundreds of professional wrestlers, and just helping them out on that end. And then they're like, "Oh, you want to do some of the licensed guys?" And I'm like, "Sure." They're like, "Can you do Macho Man?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And then it just went from there. So like, yeah, from day one, and this is going back like 2.5 years. 2.5 years ago. The game's been in development for about 4. But yeah, 2.5 years ago, like as soon as they said they were doing a wrestling-based RPG, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally down. So they did not have to sell me at all.
All right, Alex?
So Tricky already kind of hit on my first question, which is kind of like give an overall thing of the game, or did just describe the game in your own words, which you did. Growing up, were you a wrestling fan, and if so, when did you actually start wrestling? Because obviously this covers like the golden years of WWE, as we would say, or WWF, with like you said, Coco Beware, Jake the Snake's in there, the Legion of Doom. So really, there's a lot of crossover with our audience in wrestling and video games, but when did you all start or when did you start watching?
Oh, I've been watching wrestling. I mean, I have memories of being like a 3-year-old and sitting on my grandfather's lap and him telling me like that Butch Reed was like a piece of shit, and that like Ric Flair was like the greatest thing in creation, like Saturday Night TBS. So like I've been watching wrestling for I'm gonna be 40 in a couple of months. So I've been watching wrestling for 36 years, and I will say that the team that's working at MegaCat have done their homework. So there is a rich history of the industry in WrestleQuest. It pays attention to like the lucha scene, to the hardcore scene, to the Japanese scene, to the Canadian scene. Like these guys know their wrestling. They know their history. Like Jeff Jarrett is executive producer on the game. The script of this game is literally over 220,000 words. So I hope that answers your question. That so I love wrestling. I've been involved. I've been a ring announcer for in indie wrestling before. My master's thesis is on professional wrestling. I actually got a staph infection on my face while writing my article. I almost died from. Real story, real talk. So like I love professional wrestling. Like I said, I've interviewed hundreds of professional wrestlers before. So like when they wanted to bring me in on this project, I was totally down, because it's wrestling, video games, comic books, women. Those are like my 4 loves. Like it's all 4 of those things are like everything to me. So.
All right. Yield?
With all the voices that you do in WrestleQuest, which one was the most challenging?
Oh, so this is a really funny story. So they asked me if there was any female voices that I wanted to do in the game, and I said one, and they were like, "Who?" And I'm like, Luna Vachon. And for years, I used to do a Luna Vachon voice, and it shreds the hell out of my vocal cords, but I can do one, and that was the most challenging one to do, and I think I nailed it, and I can't wait for it to be in the game. So yeah.
We lost Tricky.
Tricky.
All right, well, here I'll go. I'll go on.
Just go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask you a question here, Patrick. Which wrestlers weren't included in the game that you would have liked to have seen?
Ooh, see, that's hard for me because my favorite wrestler of all time is Diamond Dallas Page, and he's in the game. I had a Jeff Jarrett poster in my room when I was a kid because I just love that he would break guitars over people's heads. And he used to come out with Deborah. Deborah was beautiful. I had a Jeff Jarrett poster in my wall in my room. I love Junkyard Dog. I love Coco Beware. A wrestler. Whew, that's hard. If I had to pick one, that is so hard. I would say maybe Raven or Taz. Jake the Snake Roberts is in the game too. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So yeah, because there's like 30, 35 licensed wrestlers in the game, and there's so many of them that have affected me. So it's hard to name one, but yeah, I would say somebody like Raven or somebody like Scott Hall, somebody like that. If they got in the game, that would have been really cool.
Yield, sir, you got another question for him?
Yeah. So did they have? So when you were recording the voiceovers for the game, did you like have to do like all the voices for this wrestler and then all the voices for this wrestler, or did you ever do a session where you were like doing both wrestlers at the same time, like you were cutting a promo or something?
Well, the way I would usually do it is like they would give me a whole bunch of stuff, and I would just do one character at a time. I do like one character at a time, and then I take a little break, and then go back and do the next one and stuff like that. So it's just like I never try to like mix the two, because the whole thing is like you want if you're bouncing from like one character to the other, it's super easy to like lose that like level of quality that you want to have, you know? So it's like, imagine going from like an English accent to an American accent over and over again. One of them, you're going to lose quality. So if you just focus on one character at a time, that's the best way to do it. That's usually the way that I would do it.
Hey, and in wrestling, if you get caught losing your accent all of a sudden, you get popped for that by the fans. People notice that, so you better keep those accents up.
So
absolutely,
Patrick, your answer led me to a question of my own. Obviously, when voice actors typically when they do voices for a game, they do it for one character. You know, unless you're a lesser known name, then you do multiple characters in the game. But you obviously WrestleQuest, you did a majority of the voices, if not all the voices. Do you find it more challenging to do several voices for a game, or would you rather just focus on one character for that performance for that game?
So that's a great question. So like I would say like the majority of the stuff that I've done in video games is one character. So like BPM Boy, Polygunner, Caillou Offensive, the Padre, one character. And I feel like if you give me one character and you give me a script, I can totally nail the hell out of it. So this was very different for me. It was a challenge. It was something new. So I wasn't about to say no. Looking back, incredibly difficult, super hard, you know, and there are so many people out there, and I mean, you guys probably know some of them that think that they can do this. And to answer your question, I would much rather be given one character to make my own than to be responsible for the entire vocal tone of an entire game. It's a ton of pressure. And it's like playing through the game at like PAX East and listening to myself talk to myself is pretty strange. But I feel like if people didn't if people didn't know me, then they wouldn't know that it was me. So then it works. So it's just hard. It was super hard. It was one of the most challenging things. And the only thing that I could say is like I can't thank Mega Cat Studios enough for giving me the opportunity to do something like that, because I mean, it was just a lot of work. It was a lot of work in I know in not a lot of time, but I made sure I made every deadline. I'm super proud of the work that I did in the game. But yeah, to answer your question, like the stuff that I did in the Padre, and the second Padre, One Shell Straight to Hell, it only came out on Steam. That's some of my best voice acting that I've ever done. There's cutscenes in that game where I'm just like, every time I watch it, I'm like, I fucking nailed it.
That's got to be a good feeling.
It's a great feeling. Like when the first cutscene in the Padre, One Shell Straight to Hell, when the Padre is on the phone, I'm just like, yeah, man. And you can say whatever you want about the game because it didn't do too great on Steam. It didn't get ported to Switch or Xbox, whatever. But I'm like, the VO that I cut in that game was on point. And that's a lot harder when your margin of error is just so much. Like it. I mean, it's hard enough to make one character sing. Imagine being told, oh, you're going to do like this character and this character and make this character unique, make this character, but don't make him sound like this and don't make him sound like that. It's like super, super hard. And it's not for everyone, you know? But I will say that there wasn't like any one time when I was like, no, I have to quit, you know? And it's so much more than like lines. It's like grunts that you have to grunt in different voices. You know, like you have like getting hit and you have to, you know, and winning and all these little vocal things that just like so many people that want to get into voice acting will be like, wait, you have to do all of that? It's like, yes. So, yeah, man, I don't know if that answers your question, but just like so many people, they think it's like super easy. And I can't tell you the hours, you know, just sitting in front of, you know, the mic, just with my hands on my head, like, okay, let's do this. It's rough. It's not for everybody.
All right, Alex?
So, Patrick, finishers are obviously a huge part of wrestling, but this is a different style of wrestling game. You know, not even really a wrestling game. It just features a lot of pop culture survivor wrestling. Do finishers play a role in the game? Like, you know, Macho Man's top rope elbow or Jake the Snake's DDT. Are those in there in any fashion?
Yeah, they are. So, like, you can definitely use Macho Man's elbow drop in the game. It requires, like, a certain amount of energy or mana, like, whatever you want to call, or hype. It's definitely in the game. There are a ton of finishers in the game. As far as Jake the Snake Roberts and a lot of the legends, the way the legends are incorporated into the game is, like, for my Final Fantasy VII people, Neo Bahamut. Do you guys remember Neo Bahamut?
Oh, we're not Final Fantasy VII guys.
Communists.
Wow.
Communists. Well, I wouldn't expect any different from a Rangers fan. So,
what about wait, you took a shot at me, but neither one of them played it either.
Hey,
but they're not Rangers fans, so they're safe. So you already got a strike against you.
Let me say this. I absolutely Chrono Trigger to me was the best ever, and that's where I stopped. I was watching my brother. I was watching my brother play Final Fantasy VII, watching him go into the menu and switch. I can't remember what it was called. I don't know if it was mana or what, but switch the orbs around to make different spells.
Materia. Yeah. Materia. Oh, I love it.
And I watched him do all that, and I was like, nope, I'm out. I'll just watch you play.
Yield, I'll tell you, like, if you spend some time crafting your materia properly, the things that you were able to do in that game, so much fun.
My brother, Final Fantasy VII is the greatest RPG ever. To me, I stopped at Chrono Trigger because I was watching that, and I was like, this game is amazing, but I can't do what you do. I'll just watch it. So that's when I checked out.
So Chrono Trigger, though, Yield, there's summons, right? So the legends in WrestleQuest can be summoned. So if you're in a tough spot and you have the energy, you can summon Jake the Snake Roberts to come and DDT your enemy. You can summon the Legion of Doom to hit the Doomsday device on somebody. There's tons of finishers. There's tons of, like, this is a game, I tell people this all the time. If you're not into wrestling, this will make you a fan of wrestling. This will humanize wrestling, humanize the spectacle, humanize the emotion of professional wrestling. If you don't like turn-based RPGs, but you love wrestling, this will be a great introduction to what turn-based Japanese RPGs are. If you love both of them, this is just going to be a game that you're going to just want to spend so much time playing. It's going to be amazing.
So I actually a follow-up question, Patrick, since we talked about the finishers and you talked about summoning the legends. Do these legends we know that a lot went into this game, but how deep does this go? Because are there specific move sets for the legends? Like, do they have like a menu of you talked about energy, so that's like a resource. Do they have like a menu of things like, oh, for this much energy do this much energy do this? Like, for instance, does each character have their own specific move set? Because wrestlers besides having a finisher have specific moves they do. They have like signature moves like the short arm clothesline by Jake the Snake. Are there like specific move sets for each character, or do they have do they share a lot of the same moves?
The legends in the game will play like the legends played in real life. That's as much as I could say about that. The legends will play the way that you want them to play. The 12 NPCs, however, have certain moves that they do, but their movesets can be customized to a certain extent. So, yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I'll just finish up real quick because I think a lot of Yield's remaining questions are kind of more general. But the last question I have about WrestleQuest. So, obviously, the likenesses for the wrestlers, those need to be, and the names need to be licensed because they're owned by another company.
Yeah.
Does anything else? Was there anything licensed else besides that? Was like music? Because obviously, entrance music, like you hear Hulk Hogan's theme and stuff like that, or you hear Jake the Snake's theme, DDP's theme. They're iconic. You hear them. It's like, oh, I know exactly what that is. Was there any licensed music in the game?
What I will tell you about the music is that there is a 70-track soundtrack for WrestleQuest. I won't get into like what's licensed and what not, but I will tell you that like if you're a fan of Japanese RPGs, that means you love your music in your games, and you will love the music of WrestleQuest. 'Cause like I said, 70 tracks. So,
all right, Yo, floor is yours.
So since you've done several video games for voice work, what's your favorite genre of game that you love to do?
The one that pays the most.
That's an honest answer.
I love that answer.
You know what? The thing is, I love gaming in general. So just like I'll give you like a quick example. So, the minds behind shooter games. That's my fourth book. I would say before my PlayStation and Genesis books, I would say that was my best book. And shooters are my least favorite genre. Like first-person shooters, third-person shooters. I'm like lather, rinse, repeat, blah, blah, blah. And then I just interviewed all these developers and found out so many sexy things about first-person shooters and third-person shooters that I ended up falling in love with the genre, and I play them much differently. Like before, when we were looking at the games that were coming out on PSN, Wolfenstein Old Blood, I ended up loving that game. I reviewed it, and I was like, oh, first-person shooter, and I ended up loving Old Blood. So like my whole thing is like I just have to have like some kind of entry point. So like with the Padre, they were like, oh, it's like an ode to Alone in the Dark, and I'm like, I love that game. So I'm like, I'm down. A Catholic priest locked in a mansion with zombies, totally down. Caillou Offensive, they're like, oh, remember the original Grand Theft Auto? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, combine that with like King of the Monsters for Neo Geo, and that's our game. Like, yeah, I'm down. And then like with WrestleQuest, it was just like, yeah, it's a turn-based Japanese RPG with wrestling characters. I'm like, yeah, I'm down. So as long as I have an entry point, something that interests me, I'll work on the game. I'm totally down to work on the game then.
What would be a developer, if they were listening, that you would be like, hey, I want to do your game?
I'd love to do a Nintendo game. I'd love to do a game released on a Nintendo console at some point, like a first party Nintendo game. I would love to do a sports game, especially a hockey game. So like EA, if you're ever looking for somebody to do PA announcing or something like that, I would totally be down to do that. Yeah, man. I love to do something made by Konami circa 15 years ago. I love to do something from Capcom circa 30 years ago. But at this point, like, I really love the indies because I feel like that's where like a lot of tender love and care is in the gaming industry. So like being at PAX East and seeing games that like I interviewed the developers maybe like 2-3 years ago when they were developing the game in their basements, and now they're at PAX East. Stuff like that makes me happy. So I love to be a part of games like that. And like I said, my relationship with like Mega Cat Studios, just like my relationship with Shotgun with Glitters for the Padre, it went back years. So I just love being like that person and being that closely tied to a project, if that makes sense.
It does. With your immense history of video games, your top 5, not in any order, top 5 favorite games.
Oh, wow. Can you guys hear me?
Barely,
Yes.
but we can hear you.
Okay, just give me 1 second because I have to plug in my laptop because the battery is going to die.
Yeah, we're going a little long tonight.
That's okay.
But it's
all right.
good conversation, so I didn't want to cut it off.
No, it's okay. Just let me plug in. So this way I don't die in the middle of this, because that would not be good. Okay. All right. Coming back. Are we charged? Yes, we are.
I heard the plug-in.
There you go. Baby, come back. So 5 favorite games of all time. Ooh, that's super rough. So I would definitely say Pokemon Red Blue, Final Fantasy 7, Fallout 3, RBI Baseball, and NHL 94.
Excellent.
All right.
So
At this time, I think we're going to wrap up the show. Patrick, I'll give you a few minutes to plug all your stuff. Obviously, you got the books, the site, all that stuff. Give us an idea. I mean, I have one of your comics sitting behind me. I always forget how to pronounce it. Can you? How do you pronounce
what country?
it? No, I don't think that's what it was.
The Job, Kroom, Brooklyn Bleeds, Dem Goals. There's a bunch of them.
We should probably grab it and hold it up to the camera so he can see it.
Well, okay. Well, to be fair, I didn't open it because I wanted to preserve it. I want to keep it in pristine condition because when you get famous, I want to be able to sell for millions of dollars.
So you didn't read it?
What do you mean when he gets famous? He's already famous.
Well,
wish.
I mean, ultra famous. Godfo, I think it's called.
Oh, Godfo, great book. Yes.
Yeah, Godfo.
Yes, Godfo. Godfo is an anime manga written by this amazing team from South Carolina, Joshua Adams and Dan Evans. So I own Legacy Comics. We're a comic book publisher out of Brooklyn, New York. I write several comics for us. I letter some of the books. I edit all of the books. I distribute all of the books. So Godfo is one of our books under our umbrella. If you're into like late night Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, like anime manga, you will totally love Godfo. I love those guys. Those guys work super, super hard for us. So to answer your other question, so like I said, I'm editor-in-chief and owner of Legacy Comics. If you go check us out, legacycomics.com. We have a ton of great comics, ranging from like crime noir, like Condry, which is about a New York City homeless man who's trying to find out who killed his father. Very like Highlander meets like The Wire. Really cool, fun stuff, like Frank Miller inspired kind of stuff. We have The Job, which is about pro wrestling. It's about a man that's a jobber. He loses every match, but he's got great gear, and he's got a hot wife, and he's got a great car. And people are like, how did that happen? And the answer is simple. They rob banks together. So it's a ton of fun. So if you like My Cousin Vinny, Two Broke Girls, Mickey Rourke's The Wrestler, Heat, Dog Day Afternoon, Point Break, you combine all of that in little Quentin Tarantino and pro wrestling, you've got The Job. Brooklyn Bleeds is a zombie book that we're doing, that the main character is actually a dog that is locked inside of his house with his owner as his owner begins to change into a zombie. So the book is completely narrated by the dog in dog language, like Tony smell funny, Tony not Tony. It's super, super fun. So we do a ton of cool stuff over at Legacy Comics. So between the video game books, the comic books, the voice acting, the teaching, the wife, the kids. I'm super slammed. But like, if you guys Google me at Patrick Hickey Jr., a ton of stuff comes up. The only way I get to tomorrow is if people support my stuff and share it. So like I said, I'm fully Googleable. I'm fully accessible. If you guys message me on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere, I will totally talk to you. I'm always about meeting new people and new eyes and talking to them. If you guys have a project that you'd like to talk to me about and that's in the fiction realm, I can totally help you get that published under Legacy. If you're interested in publishing something non-fiction wise, I have a very good relationship with my publisher. I've gotten several people book deals by pitching them to them. So I'm all about creating cool stuff and helping other people create cool stuff. So do not be scared to follow me on social media. Do not be scared to interact with me. I do not bite. I am extremely well fed.
All right.
Well, if you're not willing to bite, then are you really a true wrestling fan? Because sometimes you got to get out of those headlocks.
That's true. That's true. Well, maybe I would bite then. Yeah, that's true.
If it's good enough for Mick Foley, good enough for Cactus Jack.
Absolutely. I love Mick Foley. If you guys don't know, Mick Foley is an amazing fiction writer.
He is.
So, Tatum Brown, oh my God, he's so good. So yeah, check out Mick Foley.
Hey, fun fact, if you don't know already, you know this, Patrick. You ever watch Blue Bloods?
Yeah.
Frank Reagan's house is actually Mick Foley's house.
That's so funny. That's crazy. Well, it's like I love Blue Bloods because, like, you know, Tom Selleck's character is modeled after Teddy Roosevelt, who's like my biggest like role model. So yeah.
All right. Crazy. Before we go to shoutouts, just give us a rundown of your books and where they can find them.
Sure. So there's 7 books. There's The Minds Behind the Games, The Minds Behind Adventure Games, The Minds Behind Sports Games, The Minds Behind Shooter Games, The Minds Behind Sega Genesis Games, The Minds Behind PlayStation Games, and The Minds Behind PlayStation 2 Games. Those are all available at McFarland & Company. They're available at Target online, Amazon online, Barnes & Noble online. If you guys message me on social media and you say you want a copy, you can PayPal me. I will sign it for free and send it over to you. It's not a problem. I always put cool stuff in people's books. Like if you order a book and you're from Seattle, you'll get like a 1992 or like 1993 like Ken Griffey card or something like that. Like I put cool stuff in people's books all the time, depending on like what part of the country they're from. So if you're into that stuff, there's the Minds Behind the Games books. Like I said, they're available wherever fine books are sold. The games, the Padre One Shell Straight to Hell, Caillou Offensive, BPM Boy, those are all available on Steam. The Padre is still available on Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One. On their digital downloads are all still available. WrestleQuest is coming out in May. That's going to be available on every console. And the comics, Legacy Comics, comix.com. We have a ton of great stuff. We have like 3 amazing books that are coming out now. We're going to be unveiling another book tomorrow. So check us out tomorrow morning for that. Yeah, that's it.
All right. You said May. Do we have a day in May, or is it just May?
Well, if you weren't a Ranger fan, then maybe I might give you the day. But
hey, Patrick, do you have a day? Not just like, you know,
Thank you for stepping in there, Alex.
No, there isn't. I haven't been given a day yet. So it's so funny because Joseph Priestley, my buddy, has been messaging me nonstop for like, I would say over a year. When is it going to be released? So when I said May, he's like, is there a day? And I'm like, no, I have not been told a day, but I have just been told May. So yeah, for now it's just May. I'm sorry, guys.
He did write in the chat, give me this game now.
Yeah, for a year. Joe has been for a year. So on the Loop Brothers podcast, Joe's on there. Joe's awesome. Totally check him out. I love those guys. Daryl over there. They're so cool. They're super nice. They actually introduced me to Josh.
Hold on.
Did Godflow.
Hold on a second. We cannot show any Loop Brothers love on the show.
Why?
They are our mortal enemies. They've challenged us to 2 trophy wars and lost horribly in both of them. Daryl, I mean,
that's okay.
Daryl is just, you know, he's my mortal enemy. We can't give him any love on the show.
I will tell you, as much as I appreciate you, even if you weren't a Rangers fan, there's a special type of love that I have for that man. He is a very good man. I'm telling you, you've got to appreciate it. And like, look, let's be fair. You guys, your trophy numbers are insane. You guys are amazing at what you do. It does not make Daryl any less of a man or deserving to be your mortal enemy because
Daryl does deserve because there was a time until I had to put him in his place that Daryl was trying to challenge me on trophies. And then I had to smack him down. I had to release the Kraken. And now he just stays in his little hole and hides and doesn't come after me anymore. I
will respect Daryl for a variety of reasons. One, because he introduced me to Joshua Adams and Dan Evans, who are the team at Godfo, and I love those guys. They're like the first book that like I published on my own because I was co-owner of Legacy up until June of last year, and my co-owner did not want to sign the Godfo people. And I was like, nope, we're doing it. And he's like, no. I'm like, we're doing it. And it's our best-selling book on our website, physical book on our website. So, like, Daryl helped make that happen. And plus, this is the thing. Daryl has an amazing beard, and I have an amazing beard. So we have to stick together. It's just the way it is.
What about my beard?
Yeah. No comment.
I'm tired of this.
I love you.
I sat here for 2 hours taking nothing but shots.
You're amazing.
Alex, you're awesome. Alex, start us with your shout-outs. Alex, start with your shout-outs.
I want to give a shout out to the listeners, the fans, the fuel to the fire of this Trophy Wars. Thank you all for continue to support us so we can have a fantastic show with Patrick. Patrick, thank you very much for coming on. Very insightful, not just about video games in general, but WrestleQuest, a game that we are very much looking forward to. And I'm not a traditional RPG fan, but this may be the game that pulls me in, so we'll see how much I enjoy it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it quite a bit. Give a shout out to Tricky and to Yield, and those are going to be my shout outs.
All right.
Tricky, could I just say something really quick?
Is it going to be another insult?
No.
Okay.
Well, then keep it to yourself then.
Tricky, you're good. You're good people. You are.
I try.
You're awesome.
Yield your shout out, sir.
Shout out to Tricky and Alex for recording tonight. Shout out to my niece who wanted to play Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series, so that was pretty fun. Shout out to Prepare to Die Scum. He had a birthday this past week. Also, him, Homer Get Stuffed, and the Brain 76 for playing some Diablo 3. Shout out to Nitro for Deep Rock Galactic. Shout out to everybody who hung out in the Twitch chat tonight. Shout out to, of course, Patrick for being on the show and giving us the lowdown on not just the history of gaming and the books that he's done, but also WrestleQuest. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's a day one purchase for all of us.
Thank you, buddy. Means a lot.
Patrick, only because I go last because I close out the show. Do you have any shout outs you want to give out?
Thank you guys so much for having me. Did not expect to be on for 2 hours, but it was totally fun, totally worth it. Thank you to the Loot Brothers podcast for all of their support. I'm only kidding. I'm busting you guys' balls. Joseph is literally messaging me right now saying that he's been asking for longer than a year and a half about the game. But no, just thank you to everyone that supports me, whether it be picking up the games, whether it be reading the books, whether it be reading the comics. It's like literally when you're a creator, you're checking your sites every single day to see like what new people you've reached. You're looking at your followers every day. So like every day that like I'm fortunate enough to have people interacting with the stuff that I've created, I consider that a win. So if anyone's listened to me and is considering like picking up some of my stuff, thank you so much because it means everything. So thank you.
All right, and I want to give a shout out to Patrick first and foremost. I mean, we've all been looking forward to this show, and I was actually a little bummed when I met you at PAX that we would have to wait 3 weeks for you to come on the show. But between traveling, Easter, and everything, and WrestleMania, it's like we had to delay it. But I'm glad that we finally got you on the show. I know for sure that our fans are going to reach out and they're going to want you back on the show. So you are welcome back anytime. Even though you are an Islanders fan, I will deal with the Islanders. I'm not going to finish that. I'm just going to leave it on a positive note. Thank you very much.
I've interviewed Henrik Lundqvist before, right?
Yes.
And in the interview, the last thing he said there was some guy, Tricky Mick, that was just the worst ever.
I'm
And
sure.
that was how he wanted to. That's how he wanted to end the interview. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, from Proven Gamer. This was like 2012. I didn't even know you then. So it's just so surprising that we've actually like met, and I was able to tell you that Henrik Lundqvist, the greatest player in Rangers history, actually said that about you.
You know, my wife is going to be very upset that she said that because she's actually in love with him and has told me multiple times that she would leave me to be with Hendrik.
Well, now you could tell her that he hates you.
And Joe's in the chat. He says, the king of no cups. Fuck you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That 2014 when...
I know. I was rooting for you guys then. I'm going to be brutally honest.
I'm going to close out the show, I promise, but when that goal went in to clinch it for the Kings and just watching Lundqvist face down on the ice, I was so heartbroken. Not even as a Rangers fan. I was just heartbroken from him because you could tell how much he wanted. He played his ass
face
off.
Face down, ass up. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Shout out to all the listeners. Shout out to Alex and Yield. Thank you very much. If there's nothing else, until next week, happy trophy hunting.
See ya.
Later.
You can't see it right now, but I'm flipping.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.